You could feel the anger tonight at a Board of Trustees meeting in Thornton Township. The board and citizens looking for accountability to their finances, while the township supervisor...
Deep debt, and that is the finding of an investigation of village finances and the spending habits.
Tiffany Henyard, the embattled mayor of Dalton, Illinois, has pulled off what many are now calling one of the most shocking political vanishing acts in recent memory, leaving residents and officials in disbelief. Just days ago, she stood before a packed, emotionally charged town hall, passionately defending herself against a tidal wave of misconduct allegations. Her voice was firm, her finger pointed in defiance, boldly claiming that every charge against her was false. In that moment, she looked like a leader ready to battle, not one preparing to vanish. But in a stunning twist, that's exactly what happened. Henyard has disappeared, without warning, without explanation. Known by some as Super Mayor for her over-the-top displays of power and self-promotion, Henyard reportedly crossed state lines and slipped out of sight, sparking a storm of speculation, outrage, and confusion. Many now believe this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision, but a meticulously planned exit. A disappearing act masked by chaos, executed while the public was distracted by controversy and spectacle. And just as Dalton tried to piece together her abrupt departure, a new wave of serious allegations has surfaced, accusing Henyard of vanishing. With a substantial amount of public funds, the money, reportedly funneled through a nonprofit bearing her name, is now at the center of a financial scandal. That charity, which had already been raising red flags for months due to murky finances and lack of transparency, was suddenly shut down, leaving unanswered questions about what happened to millions in donations. Her sudden disappearance also comes as investigators dig deeper into her administration's financial behavior, including the now infamous $40,000 Amazon shopping spree that had already outraged taxpayers. Residents who have endured years of instability, unanswered questions, and mismanagement now feel completely blindsided. The same mayor who once vowed to uplift Dalton has now left the town on the brink, saddled with uncertainty, potential financial collapse, and political chaos. The timing couldn't be more alarming. With investigations closing in and her public support at an all-time low, authorities are now racing to locate Henyard and uncover the full truth behind the allegations of embezzlement. Dalton has found itself at the heart of a scandal that feels more like a political thriller than reality. What began as a display of fiery defiance has now unraveled into a high-stakes drama, complete with accusations of theft, vanishing funds, and a mayor who seemingly vanished into thin air. Now, as residents demand accountability and justice, one question echoes across the town. Will Tiffany Henyard ever be held responsible for her actions? Or has she managed to disappear into the shadows for good, leaving behind only the wreckage of what could have been? Only time will tell whether justice catches up to Dalton's missing mayor, or if this will go down as one of the most outrageous political escapes in recent memory.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
Tiffany Henyard has now become the epicenter of a political firestorm, one that's consumed headlines for months and shows no signs of slowing down. Once hailed as a rising figure in local politics, the former mayor of Dalton and supervisor of Thornton Township now stands accused of being at the heart of what could become one of the region's most explosive and far-reaching corruption scandals in recent memory. With allegations piling up, ranging from embezzlement and abuse of power to disturbing claims of verbal and even physical mistreatment of her own staff, Henyard's once ambitious career in public office has come crashing down under the weight of misconduct, manipulation, and growing public fury. Despite being under intense scrutiny and facing an ever-expanding list of complaints, Henyard somehow managed to cling to power far longer than many expected. She used her political clout, media presence, and a fiery, unrelenting persona to dismiss criticism, silence dissent, and deflect blame. But everything changed when federal investigators began closing in. What started as a quiet probe behind the scenes soon escalated into a full-scale federal investigation. As more evidence emerged and the case against her grew undeniable, the question shifted from if she would be arrested to when. But just as an arrest seemed inevitable, Henyard vanished, and not in a chaotic, desperate attempt to run. No, this was clean, precise, chillingly calculated. Her disappearance was so seamless, so well-timed, that many now believe it wasn't just a last-minute escape, but the execution of a detailed, pre-planned operation. An escape of this scale and stealth has triggered serious questions. Did someone tip her off? Was there a leak, possibly from within her own inner circle or even a local government insider? The possibility that Henyard had help from those in positions of power is no longer a wild theory, it's a growing concern. The accuracy and speed of her exit suggest coordination, possibly with people who had direct knowledge of the investigation timeline. This isn't just a scandal about one corrupt official anymore. This is quickly morphing into something far bigger. If Henyard's disappearance was enabled by insiders, it signals a much more dangerous truth, that corruption may have infected the very systems meant to protect justice and accountability. As each day passes with Henyard still at large, the story deepens. The public isn't just asking where she is anymore, they're asking who helped her vanish, and why. Which systems were exploited? Which gatekeepers looked the other way? How deep does the corruption really go? The federal investigation is growing wider, digging deeper, and with every passing week, more players may be exposed. The pressure on authorities has intensified, not only to locate Henyard, but to uncover everyone involved in helping her flee. What began as a controversy over poor leadership and unchecked power has now transformed into a high-stakes political thriller, one involving betrayal, cover-ups, and the potential exposure of a deeply rooted network of collusion. Meanwhile, the public is left with a chilling realization. The people trusted to lead and protect the community may have instead worked behind the scenes to shield one of their own. And as more layers of this complex saga are peeled back, one thing becomes increasingly clear. This is far from over. If anything, the most shocking revelations may still be ahead.
A one-day purchase of over $40,000 to Amazon. And the main thing is,
Tiffany Henyard's escape has taken a shocking and jaw-dropping turn, one that's left both authorities and the public reeling. What many first assumed was a routine out-of-state business trip has now been exposed as something far more calculated. It was never just a trip. It was a strategic disappearance executed with chilling precision. At the time of her departure, Henyard was already drowning in controversy, facing serious accusations of corruption, theft, and even abusive treatment toward her own staff. Federal investigators were closing in. The media had zeroed in. The pressure was mounting, but while all eyes were on her locally, Henyard made her boldest move yet. She left the country. And she did it without being stopped. No resistance, no detainment, not even a red flag raised. The trip that was supposed to be official business was actually a carefully crafted exit plan, one that capitalized on a brief window of opportunity, before the system could close in. Her ability to vanish so effortlessly has now sparked outrage and serious questions. How did this happen? Who let this happen? And more importantly, was it really a failure? Or was it something more sinister? How does a high-profile official, under federal investigation and media surveillance, slip away without a single barrier in place? No travel restrictions, no frozen accounts, no no-fly list, nothing. The answer? Either shocking incompetence or dangerous collusion. Now, many believe Henyard may have had an inside source, someone in her orbit who warned her about the tightening noose. Someone who bought her just enough time to vanish. And vanish she did. Just as investigations were zeroing in on her charity, once pitched as a beacon of hope, but now accused of being a front for laundering large sums of money. The moment auditors started poking around, Henyard sprang into action, shutting down the organization and allegedly cashing out. The timing? Too perfect to be coincidence. It was a blueprint, a getaway fund. She wasn't running, she was executing a plan. And now, while Dalton's residents are left to deal with the fallout, many believe Henyard is living lavishly, possibly overseas, sipping cocktails by the ocean, shielded from the chaos she left behind. Meanwhile, back home, Dalton is falling apart. The state comptroller has suspended payments to the village for failing to meet legal financial reporting requirements. Services are collapsing. Trust has been shattered. And yet the person at the center of it all is gone. The outrage isn't just about her disappearance anymore. It's about the systemic failures that allowed it. Why weren't safeguards in place? Why weren't her assets frozen before she made a move? How did no one see this coming? This is no longer just Henyard's scandal. It's a national embarrassment, a wake-up call about how fragile our systems are when someone with power knows how to play the game. And she played it well. Like scenes straight out of a political thriller, Henyard's vanishing act has now become a symbol of how power, when unchecked, can bend and break every rule in the book. From laundering funds through her so-called nonprofit, to fleeing just before a likely arrest, to the growing suspicion that someone on the inside may have helped her, this isn't just a scandal, it's a blueprint for escape. And unless changes are made, it might not be the last. Because if Tiffany Henyard, under federal scrutiny, public outrage, and active investigation, can vanish into thin air, Tiffany Henyard's escape has left the nation in shock. And it's a question that's been on everyone's mind. How did she do it? Her disappearance wasn't a simple flight for freedom. It was a masterclass in evasion, a calculated move to slip beyond the reach of U.S. authorities and possibly leave the country entirely. Was she sipping champagne on some distant shore, or hiding in plain sight under a new identity? For now, that remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. This wasn't just a run for cover. Tiffany Henyard executed her exit with a level of precision that's left authorities and the public stunned. What began as a promising political career in Dalton, Illinois has unraveled into one of the most jaw-dropping scandals the region has ever witnessed. Tiffany Henyard, once seen as a beacon of hope, has turned into the face of corruption, power abuse, and financial mismanagement. Amid mounting federal investigations, accusations of violent abuse, and glaring financial irregularities, Henyard managed to disappear just as the walls were closing in. Her escape, likely timed with the looming threat of a federal arrest warrant, paints the picture of someone who had been preparing for this moment all along. Sources reveal that Henyard fled under the guise of a routine business trip, possibly heading to a country without an extradition treaty. Armed with resources funneled through her now-defunct charity, she had everything she needed to slip away unnoticed. It wasn't just the escape itself that's raising eyebrows, it's what enabled her to get to this point. Henyard reportedly turned public funds into a personal piggy bank, lavishing money on luxury hotels, international vacations, and even a reported $140,000 Amazon shopping spree. Meanwhile, vital community programs were starved of the funding they desperately needed. But the scandal goes far deeper than financial recklessness. Allegations have surfaced that Henyard verbally and physically abused her staff, intimidating whistleblowers and privatized the local police force to turn it into a tool for personal vengeance. Employees were pushed out or punished for questioning her authority. Those who dared speak up were met with threats, retaliation, or worse, silenced completely. This toxic environment of fear, coupled with the millions of taxpayer dollars that went missing under her watch, paints a devastating picture of a leader gone rogue. Yet, despite everything, she's managed to vanish without a trace, leaving behind a town in financial ruin, its political stability shattered. As Henyard potentially lies low under a new identity or enjoys a comfortable life abroad, the people of Dalton are left to pick up the pieces. The most troubling part of this saga is how she managed to escape in the first place. No travel restrictions, no frozen assets, and no system in place to stop her. Was it incompetence? Was it complicity? Or was she simply too clever for the system? Speculation is growing. Did Henyard have an insider tipping her off? Who helped her slip through the cracks? Her disappearance has now become a symbol of a much bigger issue: how unchecked power can exploit a broken system. This isn't just one person escaping accountability. It's a troubling trend of high-profile figures disappearing when the heat gets too intense. Like others before her, Henyard turned scandal into spectacle and accountability into an afterthought. But this isn't the end of the story. Federal authorities continue to investigate her crimes and her escape, and the public's demand for justice is louder than ever. The question isn't just where Tiffany Henyard is, it's how did such a monumental failure in oversight happen? And more importantly, Who else might have been involved? Tiffany Henyard's rise and fall have exposed the dangers of unchecked ambition and the corruption that can thrive in a broken system. From abusing power within her own government to laundering money through a charity, her story is a chilling reminder of what happens when there's no one to hold the powerful accountable. For the people of Dalton, this is a painful reckoning. Millions of dollars are gone. Community programs have been gutted, trust has been shattered. If Henyard is now living freely in a foreign land, it may be nearly impossible to bring her to justice. Will an international arrest warrant catch her? Or has she already moved too far ahead? What's clear is this. She's proven time and again to be a cunning, unpredictable figure who doesn't play by the rules. The saga of Tiffany Henyard may not be over yet, and as her former constituents wait for justice, the nation watches closely.